In a tense moment during dinner, Stefan and Jessica had a heated argument over an expensive restaurant bill. Jessica had been firm in refusing to pay the entire bill, as Stefan had made some poor decisions, and she didn't feel it was fair. Stefan, growing angrier by the second, felt humiliated by her refusal. His frustration built up until, in a fit of rage, he grabbed a black cake from the table and threw it directly at her face. The cake splattered across Jessica's face and her expensive dress, leaving her shocked and humiliated. As the cake hit her, Jessica stood frozen for a moment, unable to react. But in that instant, something unexpected happened. Max, the family dog, who had been quietly lying beside Jessica throughout dinner, suddenly sprang to life. He started barking furiously, jumping up and running in circles around her, his eyes wide with panic. His loud, protective barking echoed throughout the room, causing other diners to turn their heads in shock. Max's reaction wasn't just because of the mess, it was a clear response to Jessica's distress. The dog sensed her pain and frustration. His protective instincts kicked in, as he knew Jessica was in danger, not just from the cake but from the emotional turmoil that Stefan had been putting her through for months. Max's barking symbolized the loyalty and love that Jessica had been missing in her marriage. It was a stark contrast to Stefan's behavior, who had been undermining and controlling her for so long. Stefan's anger only grew, but Max stood his ground, barking louder, as if demanding Jessica be treated with respect. Jessica, still stunned by the cake incident, felt a wave of realization wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she recognized the love and loyalty Max had always shown her, something Stefan never did. It was a small act, but in that moment, the dog's behavior reminded her of her worth and how much she had been holding on to in a relationship that didn't value her. Max continued to bark until Jessica stood up, wiping the cake from her face, her hands trembling with anger and frustration. But something in her had changed. She could feel the strength returning. As Max calmed down, Jessica realized that she didn't need to stay in a relationship where she was constantly disrespected. She knew it was time to stand up for herself, and the support of her loyal dog, Max, gave her the courage to do just that. The cake incident, though humiliating, became a turning point for Jessica. The anger and betrayal from Stefan were clear, but the love and protection from Max opened her eyes to what real loyalty and respect felt like. She knew now that she deserved better and that it was time to take control of her life. Throughout Jessica's emotional journey, her parents, Edward and Camille, have been her constant source of support. They are both successful in their own right, with Edward being a well-respected businessman and Camille an influential figure in the art world. They have always been there for Jessica, offering guidance and love, but never pushing her to do anything she wasn't ready for. They believed in her, and no matter how much time passed, their love for her remained unwavering. Jessica's parents had always been aware of the growing tension in her marriage to Stefan. They had noticed the subtle signs early on, Stefan's constant criticisms, his controlling behavior, and his disregard for Jessica's career and success. They had warned her gently, hoping she would open her eyes to the reality of her relationship. Camille, especially, had voiced concerns more than once, but Jessica always brushed them off, believing that everything would work out if she just tried harder. The situation started to worsen when Stefan began isolating Jessica from her family and friends. He would make excuses to avoid family dinners, claiming that her parents didn't respect him, planting seeds of doubt in Jessica's mind. At first, Jessica tried to convince herself that Stefan was just being protective and that her parents didn't understand him. She ignored the warning signs, thinking she could manage the relationship herself. However, as time went on, the cracks in their marriage became too obvious to ignore. Stefan's manipulative behavior grew worse. He began controlling the finances, undermining Jessica's professional accomplishments, and constantly belittling her in front of others. Jessica felt trapped, unsure of how to escape. During this time, her parents continued to reach out, offering their support and reminding her that they were there for her, no matter what. The key turning point in Jessica's journey came when she reached a breaking point. One evening, after a particularly heated argument with Stefan, Jessica found herself standing in her parents' home, emotionally exhausted and feeling defeated. Camille, noticing how drained Jessica looked, asked if she was truly happy in her marriage. For the first time, Jessica hesitated. She realized, deep down, that she wasn't happy. In fact, she hadn't been happy for a long time. She had been ignoring the truth, telling herself that things would improve, but they never did. Her parents sat with her, offering comfort and understanding. Edward, who had always been the strong, silent type, gently told her that she didn't have to stay in a relationship that was making her miserable. He reminded her that she was a strong, independent woman who deserved to be treated with respect and love. Camille, with tears in her eyes, told Jessica that she had always been enough, and it was time to let go of the toxic relationship that had been draining her for so long. That night, Jessica made the decision to leave Stefan. It wasn't an easy choice, and it came with its own set of fears and uncertainties. But with the unwavering support of her parents, she knew that she had to take control of her life and prioritize her well-being. Her family's love and belief in her gave her the strength to face the difficult road ahead. They would be by her side every step of the way, helping her reclaim the life she deserved. Stefan's manipulation of Jessica was a slow and steady process. In the beginning of their relationship, he seemed supportive, always encouraging her to work hard and follow her dreams. But over time, his true nature began to show. Stefan started to criticize Jessica's career in subtle ways, making her question her worth and abilities. He would often say things like, "It must be nice to have everything handed to you," or, "I don't know why you stress so much about your job, it's not like you really need to work." At first, Jessica didn't think much of these comments. She brushed them off as offhand remarks, thinking that maybe Stefan was just joking or that he didn't fully understand the importance of her work. But the more he said things like this, the more they started to affect her. Stefan would downplay her accomplishments, acting as though her success wasn't because of her hard work and talent, but because of her family's wealth and connections. He would say, "Your parents built an empire, of course you can get a good job. It's just who you know." These comments slowly chipped away at Jessica's confidence. She began to doubt herself and wonder if Stefan was right. Was she really as successful as she thought she was? Or was she just riding on the coattails of her parents' wealth? Stefan's constant undermining of her career made her question her every decision, making her feel like she couldn't accomplish anything on her own. But it wasn't just the constant criticism that affected Jessica, it was the way Stefan benefited from her achievements. While Jessica worked tirelessly to build her career and establish herself as an investment strategist, Stefan was always right there, acting as though her success was partly his. He would often boast about her accomplishments to his friends, saying things like, "Jessica's doing well because of me," or, "I've helped her so much with her career, I'm proud of how far she's come." These comments made it seem as though he was taking credit for everything Jessica had worked so hard for. Jessica couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration. Her hard work and determination were being dismissed, and her partner was claiming credit for her success. Stefan's manipulation made her feel small and insignificant, as though her accomplishments weren't truly hers. He was using her success to boost his own image while constantly putting her down to make her feel inadequate. The more Jessica tried to prove herself, the more Stefan belittled her efforts. When she launched new projects at work or made important deals, he would brush them off, saying, "It's just business as usual, nothing special." Instead of celebrating her achievements, Stefan made it seem like her success was just another thing she was lucky to have. His behavior left Jessica feeling emotionally drained, as if her work and her worth were never good enough. This cycle of manipulation continued until Jessica's self-doubt reached its peak. She felt like she couldn't win, no matter how hard she worked. Stefan found a way to diminish her efforts. His behavior made her feel trapped, unsure of her own abilities, while he benefited from everything she had worked for. The longer she stayed in the relationship, the more she realized that Stefan wasn't interested in her success, he was only interested in controlling her and taking credit for her achievements. The turning point for Jessica came when she uncovered the truth about Stefan's financial abuse. For months, she had noticed small, unexplained withdrawals from their joint bank account. At first, she thought it might be an honest mistake, or perhaps Stefan had forgotten to mention a purchase. But as the transactions became more frequent, her suspicion grew. One evening, after Stefan had left for a meeting, Jessica decided to take a closer look at their bank statements. She spent hours going through the documents, piecing together a disturbing pattern. There were large amounts of money missing, money that had been transferred to accounts she didn't recognize. Shocked, Jessica dug deeper. She found that Stefan had set up secret accounts in his name, using their joint funds for his personal expenses. He had been siphoning money away without her knowledge, buying things for himself, luxury items, trips, and investments, while pretending everything was fine. The discovery hit Jessica hard. She had always trusted Stefan, and to learn that he had been hiding money from her, using their joint funds for his own benefit, felt like a betrayal. She felt a mix of anger and disbelief. How could he do this to her? He had already been controlling and manipulative in other areas of their relationship, but this was the final straw. Jessica realized that the man she had been married to wasn't who she thought he was. He wasn't the loving partner she had imagined, he was someone who had been taking advantage of her for his own gain. With her heart racing, Jessica decided to confront Stefan. When he returned home later that evening, she sat him down and showed him the evidence of his financial manipulation. She handed him the bank statements, pointing to the unauthorized withdrawals and the secret accounts. At first, Stefan tried to deny everything, laughing it off as a misunderstanding. But when Jessica insisted on discussing it further, his attitude changed. He became defensive and angry, accusing her of invading his privacy. He told her that it was all part of his plan to secure their future, that she didn't understand how the real world worked. But Jessica wasn't buying his excuses anymore. She had seen through his lies. His calm facade had cracked, and the true Stefan was revealed, manipulative, selfish, and unwilling to take responsibility for his actions. He tried to manipulate her into thinking she was overreacting, saying things like, "You're just being paranoid. This is all for us, for our future. You don't know what's best for us." Despite his attempts to twist the truth, Jessica stood firm. She realized that no matter what Stefan said, she could no longer stay in a relationship where she was being controlled and taken advantage of. She had spent too long trying to make things work, hoping he would change. But now, with the proof of his deceit in front of her, she knew that it was time to walk away. "I'm done," she said quietly but firmly. "This isn't love, Stefan. It's control. And I won't let you control me anymore." With those words, Jessica made the decision to break free. She no longer felt the need to prove herself to him or justify her actions. She had the strength to reclaim her life and move forward. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she knew it was the right choice for her own well-being. For the first time in a long time, Jessica felt empowered and in control of her own future. After her confrontation with Stefan, Jessica realized she was ready to take control of her life. She had spent so many years letting him manipulate and undermine her, but now she was determined to break free from his hold. The moment she walked away from Stefan in that cafe, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. It was as if she had finally freed herself from the chains that had been holding her back. Jessica's first step towards reclaiming her life was focusing on her career again. For years, Stefan had belittled her achievements, dismissing her work as unimportant and attributing her success to her family's wealth. But now, Jessica knew her success was earned through her hard work, intelligence, and dedication. She threw herself back into her job with renewed energy and purpose. She began working on new projects, taking on leadership roles, and making decisions without feeling the need to seek approval from anyone, especially not Stefan. The more she focused on her work, the more she regained her confidence and sense of self. As Jessica became more focused on her career, she also started reconnecting with the people who had always supported her, her friends, family, and colleagues. Over the years, Stefan had pushed her away from those who truly cared about her, isolating her so he could have more control over her. But now, with Stefan out of the picture, Jessica was able to reconnect with her best friend, Angela, who had always been there for her. Angela was a constant source of support, and their friendship blossomed once again. Jessica also reached out to her colleagues, who had noticed her absence and welcomed her back with open arms. She found herself surrounded by people who genuinely wanted to see her succeed, and their encouragement made all the difference in rebuilding her confidence. But Jessica didn't stop there. She realized that her experiences could help other women who had gone through similar struggles. She wanted to create a space where women who had been manipulated or controlled in relationships could find support, resources, and the strength to take back control of their lives. So, she decided to launch a foundation focused on helping women who had faced financial and emotional abuse. The foundation would offer legal advice, career guidance, and emotional support to women who needed it most. The idea behind the foundation came from Jessica's own journey. She knew how hard it was to feel trapped, to question your worth, and to be afraid to leave a toxic relationship. But she also knew how empowering it could be to take the first step toward freedom. She wanted to help other women feel that same sense of empowerment and independence that she was now experiencing. The foundation quickly gained traction, and Jessica began speaking at events, sharing her story with others, and offering advice to women who were struggling. Her vulnerability and strength resonated with many, and soon, the foundation grew into a powerful network of support. Jessica found herself not only rebuilding her life but also helping others do the same. As she looked back on her journey, Jessica realized just how far she had come. From a woman trapped in a controlling relationship to a strong, independent leader who was making a difference in the world, Jessica had transformed her life. She knew the road ahead would have its challenges, but she was no longer afraid. She had found her voice, and nothing was going to stop her from continuing to grow and help others along the way. The final confrontation between Jessica and Stefan took place in a courtroom, and it was the moment that would define her future. After months of emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and isolation, Jessica was ready to stand up for herself and tell the truth about what had been happening in her marriage. She had gathered all the evidence of Stefan's deceit, including proof of the secret accounts and unauthorized withdrawals from their joint funds. She had also documented the years of emotional manipulation and control that Stefan had put her through. When Jessica walked into the courtroom, she felt a wave of determination. She wasn't just fighting for her financial assets, she was fighting for her dignity, her independence, and her future. She knew this battle wouldn't be easy, but she was prepared to face it head-on. Stefan was sitting at the defendant's table, looking as calm and collected as ever, but Jessica could see the tension in his eyes. He knew that his lies were about to be exposed. As the proceedings began, both sides presented their cases. Stefan tried to paint himself as the victim, claiming that Jessica was neglecting their marriage and focusing too much on her career. He made excuses for his actions, saying that he was just trying to protect their future by handling their finances. But his words rang hollow. The evidence Jessica had gathered was clear, and it showed the truth of what had been happening behind closed doors. It wasn't about protecting their future, it was about controlling her and taking advantage of her success. When it was Jessica's turn to speak, she stood tall and walked to the witness stand. Her heart raced, but she knew this was her moment to take control. She recounted everything, the years of emotional abuse, the way Stefan had tried to break her down, and the financial manipulation that had drained her trust and confidence. As she spoke, Jessica felt a sense of empowerment she had never known before. She wasn't hiding anymore, and she wasn't afraid to speak the truth. "I stayed because I believed things would get better," Jessica said, her voice steady. "But I realized that no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much I gave, things would never change. I deserve better than this. Her words were powerful, and the courtroom fell silent as she finished her testimony. The judge listened carefully, considering all the evidence. After a brief deliberation, the judge ruled in Jessica's favor. He granted her full control over her financial assets and dismissed Stefan's claims. Stefan's attempt to manipulate the situation had failed, and Jessica had won her freedom. As the judge's gavel came down, Jessica felt a wave of relief and pride. She had fought for herself, and she had won. The battle had been long and painful, but it had been worth it. She had taken back her life. After the ruling, Jessica walked out of the courtroom with her family by her side. Her parents, Edward and Camille, were there to support her every step of the way. They hugged her tightly, proud of the strength she had shown. Jessica felt a sense of gratitude toward them, knowing that their unwavering love and support had helped her find the courage to stand up for herself. With the legal battle behind her, Jessica knew she was finally free. She was no longer defined by Stefan's control or manipulation. She was her own person, ready to rebuild her life with newfound strength. The road ahead would have its challenges, but Jessica was no longer afraid. She had faced the darkest parts of her past and emerged stronger. Now, she was ready to embrace the future and all the possibilities it held.